Welcome to the Will of the Wheel, episode 1. This is our first... Well, I'm not even going to say it's our first real episode, because I think episode 0 is a real episode, but this is our episode where we played Sea of Stars. All of us got together to give you the rundown of what Will of the Wheel is. We spin a wheel around once, maybe twice a month, depending on how long it takes for us to finish the game. And whatever the wheel lands on, we all play, and then we discuss it here on the Will of the Wheel podcast. Anyway, this month, we spent time playing Sea of Stars, which has been, I think, overall a very good experience for all of us. Let's get right into it. Oh, I guess I'm the host for today's podcast. I'm Reed/Brain. This is my channel. Everyone else, if you would like to introduce yourselves, feel free.
Sure. Hi, I'm Tyzride, or Tyler.
Hello, I'm Shane.
Hello, I'm Ravi.
I'm Zach.
How's it going? I'm Felix.
Perfect.
Brilliant.
Brilliant.
We're so good at this.
We're naturals.
This was a long week, or I keep saying a week. This is a long month
been
for
like
us.
a month.
This game took me a week.
It's
It took me a while.
a while.
It's been
Sea of Stars
coming.
took us a long time. To be fair though, that's RPGs. I think hesitant about adding an RPG to the wheel. I was under the assumption that this game would be a somewhat short and sweet experience. I think I was proven wrong when I think I rolled up on 100 hours of playtime. I think is where I ended off.
Wow. Wait,
Oh,
really?
wait,
Holy
yeah.
shit.
Well, he also did do.
You did
do
something
all the
Game
achievements.
Plus.
Yeah, I just didn't realize it was that long.
I
full
guess
playtime was 25 hours, and I only did main story. I didn't do any side content at all.
I'm still trying to finish all the end game stuff, but I'm at like 40 hours right now.
You know what? I completely lied. I was at 40 hours.
Yeah, I'm pretty
That is a
sure.
very
I'm looking
different
at it
number.
right now. I just pulled it
Okay.
up. 40
We're
hours.
thinking of Persona or something.
Okay,
I-
yeah.
Does it count Steam Deck hours as well?
Yeah, of course it would.
Okay.
Our Steam decks are tied to our account, so makes sense.
Yeah.
I finished around 40 hours and I did most of the content in the game.
This is a side note, but this game is extremely well optimized for a portable experience too.
This-
It's great.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. This game, I feel like it would run on anything, honestly. It did not
Yeah.
feel intensive at all.
Waiting for the mobile release of this game.
Good old-
anytime
good
soon.
old
The
indie
mobile
game.
release.
I mean, hey,
I have a
It
question
can
for
work.
everybody before we get into general impressions.
Mhm.
What is everybody's base level of experience with turn-based RPGs? Because for me, Pokemon, that's it. I played Pokemon as a child, and that's pretty much my one and only turn-based RPG experience until I played this.
Same.
Should go around.
I had the exact same experience. I've only played Pokemon, and that's it.
I have a lot of experience with RPGs. I would say that was my genre of choice. Everyone else was playing CS:GO and shit like that, and I was delving deep in the PS Vita fucking they only had JRPGs on that console. So I was down there.
yeah, much like Reed, I was also in that boat where I played a good amount of turn-based RPGs, from Pokemon to the old GBA Yu-Gi-Ohs, even Chrono Trigger, if anybody knows of that game, and the old Final Fantasies. But yeah, I'm sort of a bit more experienced in that end for RPGs, but yeah.
Yeah. For myself, I've played Paper Mario, a few of them, and those were my bread and butter. I love Paper Mario games. I've dabbled with Persona games, but this is generally not the genre that's pulling me towards buying a game. Which is why it was on my list of games I wanted to play, but never bought.
Mm-hmm.
What about you, Felix?
Same with most people. Played Pokemon as a kid. Haven't really played a lot of recent ones. I did play some of the Mario and Luigi games, or a little bit of them as a kid, but I didn't get all the way through one of them.
It's so I think two games mentioned there, Chrono Trigger and even the Mario and Luigi games that you mentioned, Felix. I think were pretty big inspirations for this game.
Definitely. And
in
like Paper
terms of-
Mario and stuff.
Definitely.
Yeah,
It feels
timing
like
of
it.
attacks and everything. It's got the elements. I would say definitely for the best. I liked how it was presented.
Well,
It's
then-
such a tiny thing, but just like being able to tap a button when you block or when you attack to make it more effective keeps you engaged at so many more levels of combat than most turn-based RPGs are.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And that's why I love the Paper Mario games.
Otherwise, it would just be like the general just menuing till the end.
Yeah, pretty much.
Hard to balance for stuff like that though, because I believe the game in the beginning says that you should expect your like perfect timed attacks / blocks to be not expected, but like you should be
Right.
happy when they happen.
Yeah, they're
Which
like
is-
bonuses,
I
but they're not
don't agree
necessarily.
with
I
honestly.
think they lie.
I feel like a lot of fights literally require you to get it right, and if you don't, you're fucked.
I agree. In terms of the damage you take without blocking it,
Or like, well, we'll
Don't
get into
mind.
it later. The lock mechanic.
Well, it's like if you focus on like food and
that's
like
true.
healing, you could probably get through the game without it. But it would definitely be a much different
Maybe, yeah.
I don't know.
skill.
Maybe.
Yeah, I don't know.
So what's everyone's general impression? Should we just go down the line of like how did everybody feel from a general
Mhm.
perspective? Since this is your game, Reed, you want to go first?
Yeah, that's fine. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I thought it had a well, I should say like if we break it down beginning, middle, end, like beginning I was like indifferent, I'd say. I think it started off a little slow, but I was interested in the world. Middle, I was probably, I would say the middle might have been the lowest point where I was kind of just like, I thought the game was ending in the middle and I was like, okay, that's
Mhm.
fine. I was expecting this experience to come to a close and I was generally pretty happy with about it. But then the end is definitely, I think, where my feelings about the game peaked, where I was hooked, I should say. We'll get into it later, but there's just like so much that happens in like the later half that really like unfolds the world and how invested these characters are in that kind of scene.
No, I definitely agree. Like the beginning, for me, was really heavy. It was just like a much different, like a lot different than the games that I usually play. So it took a lot of like effort to play the game at the beginning, especially as I was like ramping up. Then towards the middle, it's kind of weird. Like towards the middle, I started playing it a lot, and then after I got past like the midpoint or a little after that, I took like a 2-3 week break. And when I got back, I just finished the end game, which was very like, I feel like it has like two big momentum swings, and then the middle is kind of like a lull in the action. Is how it felt for me.
Yeah, I think that's pretty fair. I had a little bit more push to play the middle sections of the game just because there was reference. Like, most of the middle part of the game is playing through the same island that the messenger takes place on. So that music, that kind of vibe made me happy. I was running through that. But generally, yeah, the beginning and end of the game are so good for so many reasons. Especially when you start getting more characters and more abilities that you can use. You get the full swing of the combat system, and it feels really fun by the end. But building that is not great.
That is true. The early combat can drag on
Yeah.
because you just don't have a lot of tools early on.
I think for me personally, there were times in this game where I was really into it, like really invested, especially towards the end. But there were also times in this game where I wanted to put it down and was really not enjoying it at all. And I would ricochet from these states like all the time. But I will say, like, the gameplay, like, I think especially got old for me towards the end. But I did end up actually getting hooked. And those last like 5 hours, I like could not put the game down. I actually really liked the ending bits. Like, I think they save all the best shit for the end, I would say. But I think, especially the beginning, the first 10 hours of the game for me were a huge drag. Like, I was like hating it, honestly, for the first 10 hours. And I ended up like really liking the last 5. And the middle was like all over the place.
Do you think you can pinpoint what actually hooked you and made you want to finish the game? Because I think it was different for all of us. Like-
well, let's we can talk about it. Let's let Shane and Robbie say what they think first.
True.
I had a fairly similar experience to Zoob's. My feelings towards this game are very mixed as well, because I really enjoyed it at first. I got pretty into the combat, but the game goes on for much longer than I would have liked, and the combat did get old for me. I didn't really get hooked into the story until later. I did enjoy it, but we'll save that for later. So overall, a mixed bag. I enjoyed parts, and I really disliked some parts.
And then
Yeah.
there's Robbie.
Yeah, I mean, mine's very much like the same as Shane's, like where I was very much into the overall like mechanics like that this offered because it was so fresh and like new and stuff I haven't seen before. And then there was definitely a point like where it was mainly just engagement with the story like that I like lost motivation to finish the game. But definitely towards that like pivotal point within the game, it's just like, oh, now you do really want to like see this through to the end and like see like what it has to offer.
Robbie, I do want you to tell everybody your kind of chronicle your experience with the game because in
My
particular,
experience with it?
a unique method of
Tell the people
completion.
what you did.
Yeah, so I basically no-lifed the game within 2 days of just finishing it from, I'd say, like, a little bit before the halfway point all the way to the end story within 2 days worth. So,
I don't think the game is designed to do that.
And to quote you, I think you said you put in like a full 9-hour shift. That's
Yes.
what you said.
I put on
You
a full
clocked in.
9-hour shift. Like, it was a point where it was basically like for this podcast, I was like, oh, shoot, I gotta finish this. Because I was mainly just let it sit on there because I was at that point in the story where I was just like, I'm so bored. Like, I generally lack any motivation to like see this game through. Because it was like the same thing over and over and like same loop. And then I got to a certain point in the story and I'm like, oh shit, okay, this is semi-interesting now. And then it's just like, okay, let's just finish it. And just kept on playing until I couldn't anymore.
Well, then I got that out of the way.
That's a lot of willpower, man. I
It's,
couldn't
it's
be me.
certainly a
It's
unique approach.
I think the game's at its best. I think it's like the perfect casual game, like mobile, like on Steam Deck or something, and just like picking it up like an hour a day, maybe like 2 hours a day, and like slowly getting through it. I don't think it benefits from grinding through it.
Yeah, I guess I should say that my overall experience with playing this game was on the Steam Deck primarily, because I was able to just take it anywhere,
Great
wherever.
Steam Deck game.
Yeah, it was great.
Top Steam Deck game.
So like it didn't leave my hands for a while, but I could just keep playing it and getting through it. So yeah,
That's fair.
How many hours did you put in total?
it's a great question. I have to check.
I think
my
yours
Steam.
was like a lot less because you just like booked it.
I think I remember like 20 or so.
I had 22 and a half hours.
It definitely seems like 20 to 24 is the sweet spot for finishing full story completion.
Yeah, definitely for the story, it's like rough. I want to say like roughly 20 hours, and then there was times like at least in my playthrough. I don't know if we want to talk about mechanics now, going into it, or we can save it for later. You guys call. But like, I want to say like a good hour of it was me running to a campfire to reset my health points and mana points. I would like to say, and
It's
then
true. Yeah.
Yeah, I did turn on the what was it called? There's like a accessibility feature that refills your health after every
Yeah.
fight, so you
So
don't
during-
have to go back and heal.
That would be
Yeah.
nice. I
That's
would
like
use
the,
that,
the
honestly.
storytelling.
Yeah.
I took on after a while because I think especially, I mean, I guess we'll talk about I guess we should talk about the combat first.
yeah,
But I
we should
think
go there.
for me, the combat, like, I agree with everyone. I was enjoying it at first, but I think after a while it got very old, partially because it takes so long to get new abilities and new characters, and also you're hard limited to only three main abilities per character.
Yeah.
You get a lot of
Yes.
combo
Yeah.
moves, but I feel like that was overly restrictive, and I think that did not help with my enjoyment personally. But this is also the problem for me is, like I mentioned, I don't have a lot of experience with turn-based RPGs, so I feel like it's hard for me to tell. It's like, do I not like this because of the game's own merits, or do I just not enjoy turn-based games? Period. It's really hard for me to tell.
It is interesting. The combo moves all of them are great. I think they're neat. I just wasn't able to access them a lot because they're all tied to that combo meter. And the other thing about the combo meter is that it resets every fight. So you can't every single time. Yeah, you can't save a meter for another fight. And oftentimes, at least for fodder enemies, I'm gonna kill them before I even use the combo meter.
Right.
So I just never ended up using a lot of those attacks a lot unless you got to boss battles. But even then, you're only gonna use like a select few for those boss battles anyway, because like you're ultimately just trying to break the locks for every enemy. And I guess to give a rundown to that, this game centers around a push and a pull system where like enemies will, I guess, premeditate an attack, layering a bunch of locks. I think is what there's
like they're
called.
Channeling like a
Yes,
spell for
they're
a
called
couple
locks.
turns.
And you have to hit them with the corresponding element or attack type, whether that's like blunt, slashing, moon, solar, poison, and I think there's one more I'm missing.
Magic.
Arcane, yeah.
Mhm.
Oftentimes though, it's like hard to meet those lock requirements.
And sometimes they'll be like, here's one turn, break 8 locks.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Do it.
Sometimes they just like the mechanic was like really cool. I think it works so well in a way because it's like it really forces you to like methodically think out like which character has which moves you need for each lock.
Yeah.
But it really was engaging for a while. But then I think eventually later in the game, it's like when they just give you locks that are like I think there are locks that are impossible to break.
There was
was,
the one. Yeah, you go.
I don't know. I thought that there was never a lock I couldn't actually get to. Usually, like it was either my misuse of mana or that's pretty much it.
Even the ones
You
that
can-
start when the fight starts.
Yeah, you can.
I mean, even
you
if
can
they
get
give you
them.
one turn, because you can delay their attacks.
Well, here's the issue
Yeah.
though, Tyler. There's
Sure.
the one segment in the early game where they start giving you poison locks. You have no characters that have access
is
to
true.
poison.
Yeah,
Yeah, they do give you poison locks before
you
get
meet
character to-
the character for the poison.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Not a
I guess.
huge fan
I
of
guess
that.
up until you get.
So
I don't know. We want to spoil. Yeah, I guess Sarai. Once you get that character, it becomes a lot easier to just do stuff like that. And then early game, I guess. Yeah.
My other issue with that though is you're right. When you have access to all the characters, it becomes a lot easier to break locks. However, most of the segments of the game, you're limited to certain characters. Like I feel like
yeah.
more often than not, you have less of your party than you're with the full party, which is good narratively. However, gameplay-wise, things become a lot more restrictive.
I think it functions
I
more like a
agree.
puzzle game than like, because a lot of games like they'll give you this tool set and then you get to choose how you want to use it. Whereas in this game, it feels more like a puzzle game where there's only 1 or 2 solutions that like you need to use in that situation, or else you'll take more damage or be punished in some way. But if you want to play like optimally, like it's more like a puzzle game where it's like there's one thing you can do.
It's a really good comparison, and I wasn't able to pin down what it was, but I definitely agree. I liked the lock system early on, but as I kept playing with it, I came to kind of hate it. Definitely dislike, because it did feel like I was being forced to choose the best option, or like sometimes the right option, instead of playing how I wanted to. It felt like I had to break the locks.
I
mean, you definitely have to.
I don't know actually.
It's like
Yeah,
break or die.
I kinda-
Some lock attacks just murder you instantly.
Late game, I started like ignoring them for the most part. Once you get like the characters like best weapons and gear,
Yeah.
and then you reach like a certain point.
Sometimes you can power pick them.
Or are you talking about like for normal enemies or for bosses?
For normal
I think
enemies.
it varies.
Oh,
varies greatly.
okay, that's fair. Yeah, for the bosses, yeah.
it's tough. The game basically has two modes of combat, like like fodder enemies and
True.
bosses. Like the game is basically completely different when you're fighting a boss. Like I mean, it's not completely different, but
I would say it is completely different.
If you
I
a
agree.
boss.
I do say the game shines in its boss fights. That was probably the most fun I had. with the
Yeah,
game.
I agree. For the most part.
That's
Yeah, most of the
That's fair.
bosses.
Every boss fight I think I fought, I was pretty happy with ultimately.
Although I do like, because like halfway through the game they give you the living mana.
Yeah, or not even.
Actually,
That's
less than
pretty.
Not even
Like,
halfway.
pretty early
That's like
on.
an early stage. That's like a big mechanic.
10 hours
Yeah.
in.
No,
Yeah, living
I would say
mana.
like 2 hours in you get living mana. It's not that
Yeah.
long. Yeah.
Yeah,
I guess
it's
that's
not.
fair.
It's not that far.
Early. I was gonna say
You just have
that's
to
the
get
best
up
part
to the
about
top,
the
right?
locks to me.
Yeah.
True.
Is the living mana system, because it's kind of hard to see like on the screen. You see like when you hit an enemy with like a normal attack with no special like things on it, they drop little balls, and you can use those balls to like boost your normal attack to give it like an elemental attribute.
How did you guys
Yeah,
use your living
I
mana?
really like that.
Did you like? Were you always charging up a character after like creating living mana once? Because like the way I did it, and I think was to have like more options specifically for lock breaking. Was I would just amass a bunch of living mana until there was like locks that I needed to break, and then I would utilize it.
Yeah, I would just let it sit there on the field, and then whenever like I needed like a certain time to like use it, or like for a certain place like where I needed like living mana or something, like then it just worked because I was like, oh, I'll get the attribute anyway. That worked really well at the final boss with all their locks because I didn't give up a single like lock during the
Which
final boss of the game.
The normal final boss.
The normal one, you completionist.
The normal
I
final
didn't
boss.
do it. I didn't do it.
I didn't think. I actually thought the normal final boss was pretty easy.
Really, it was real easy.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have a topic for that. We'll get
Yeah,
into that
we'll
later.
get into that later.
Yeah, I definitely want to talk about that later.
Yeah, I guess we're done. I guess we're mostly done with
I
combat.
do want to talk about the combo system one more time.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Okay.
I feel like there's almost like combo moves are not designed equally. Like in terms of like some are just much stronger and much more like utility than others. I feel like maybe the game should have more like status effects or something.
Well, that's.
So I used like the one that like delayed their turn a
Yeah.
lot because that was just really useful.
Yep.
And the one that heals. I use
And
that
the
one
one
a
that
lot.
heals. But a lot of them just do damage in different ways with different characters. So I
Yeah.
feel like there should have been more like statuses or like elements or something that you could put on enemies. I don't know.
I agree with that, but I also think that's something that would have been alleviated if you could use combos more. You know, if
Fair.
they didn't reset after every fight, and you could just like utilize them more.
There is one combo move that does delay enemies. I didn't realize it until way later, but I forget.
think
It's
I
the
haven't used that one.
Sarai Rashawn one.
Yeah.
Like, and you get that so late.
You get it so late, and it's also so strong.
I never.
I don't
used
know
it.
if I
wish
ever
knew about
used that. Yeah.
I
It
tell you,
delays their
I
turn
figured
by
out
like
a way
3
after.
turns.
Rashawn's ultimate does too.
Yeah, it delays their
It
turn by like
does.
3 or 4 turns.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Rashawn's
Oh.
ultimate, I think, is perhaps
I
too
never
powerful.
did that.
It
It
heals,
This is
it
very
delays.
powerful. That-
The
It
only
does
thing about
poison,
it's like a
magic.
utility ult. It doesn't do a lot of damage.
It does. It
Right.
does a very good amount of damage, though.
It does good. It does
good
work.
damage, but not as much as the other.
Yeah,
Right.
but
Like with ultimates, they're also not built equally. Like all of them just do damage except for his, which does that.
And also heals as well, if I'm not.
yeah, it heals.
His
it
also
delays.
heals.
It,
His is
yeah.
OP. I'm not trying to say
it's
not.
an
It's
AOE.
His is-
yeah.
I've never used that one. Fuck.
His,
You
his is the
slept
best
on it.
in the game.
Terribly.
I think his is the second one you get.
Yeah, I just didn't
after
think it-
Sayrise.
I wanted to see the moon. And sun.
I do like those.
I got
a
bored of
lot.
those.
in terms
I
of
didn't
in
use
terms
it
of
that often either.
difficulty spikes / like lulls, when you get Rashawn, I feel like the game gets like 20% easier.
Rashawn
It just gets a-
is versatile.
Well, he's like your crowd control healing
Yeah.
character.
And I understand it's like
Utility.
story wise, like he's really strong because like he's the dude, but like he's just too strong. He kind of he's a little
I
imbalanced.
thought
I
there were other
Fucking hate him.
characters that were stronger than him.
Yeah,
I agree.
Rashawn is definitely the character I think, like, when I got him, I was like, oh, the game's actually fun again for me. because
Gotcha.
the combat actually
Huh.
had a little bit more fun.
I do like the
with the idea
timing
of
his
poison.
attack was very
That's
unique.
crazy.
Yeah, that was more fun for me than some other parts of the game. I was like,
Gotcha.
oh, I get to throw poison bottles and stuff. It's like, and it was a bit more easier to figure out that timing. I think that was the easiest timing.
Really?
You're
Yeah, that one-
That took
that
me a
one's
little bit to
easy.
figure out.
That one was more
I
easy for me than
disagree.
other ones.
I
That was
disagree.
my hardest timing, and that was my least favorite character.
I don't know if
That-
it's because like it's just like, oh, it's like a lineup thing. It's just line up the sprite over this, and it's just, oh, that's it, done. Poison goes boom boom. But I don't know. My brain
I
works
used
in
his,
weird ways.
His move that like brings enemies together. I use that one a lot.
That I think it was
Mm,
called
that was fun.
Alliance.
They have
or
like area of
Abeyance.
effect that's not that big.
A band, something like
Yeah,
that.
it was
That move
good.
is really good for
Yeah.
breaking locks.
Hits
Yeah,
a lot.
true.
Yeah.
Honestly, when Felix was talking about combo moves, and you as well, Reed, it gave me the idea, and this would be like a different game to be fair, but I think I would greatly prefer it if most enemy combat encounters were optional, but you can build up combo during that and save that to fight a boss with.
I agree.
I feel like that would add.
If you could save
An
combo
interesting
meter, I think it would
I don't know if
just
it'll be broken.
allow for more.
I think it'd be
things.
annoying.
But the
yeah.
thing is,
You don't
I
have to
played
do
so
it.
much, and I really
Yeah, but-
wished I could have skipped most of the combat encounters. So I would have just done that.
Yeah,
If
enemy
it's something
is
you
really
can do,
easy.
you'll feel like you'll have to for the harder
I actually,
boss fights,
I
and that'll
did
be really
manage to
annoying.
skip most encounters on my
Yeah.
second playthrough.
It's
I
just
enjoy that.
you just run
actually.
around them.
Yeah.
You just run around
There's
and
like-
run.
it's like
They
all-
can
Some of
chase
them,
you,
sure,
but you can just
but
run.
in the later game, there's a bunch
That's
of
Or
fair.
Phoenix
I
just
did not.
pursue,
I
which
did
is
not get to
fine.
later game.
Especially when there's like this is the worst section of the game for me. The section where you all split off
Yeah.
Yeah.
and you just have
Oh
one
yeah, no,
character
that's the
Yeah.
worst.
switched on.
That's the worst one.
I died.
And
I died the
there's
most in that section.
multiple forced encounters
That
in
is
that one
a
in that section.
rough
That was
section.
the low
I
point of the
agree.
game for me. That's
That was
terrible.
the hardest and probably least fun because you had the least options in terms of combat.
That one
Yeah.
felt the most like there's one way to play this, and if you don't
Yeah.
do it right, you die.
That's the only part of the game where I died to like normal enemies.
Exactly. It felt like unintentionally
I
hard
died with
because
zombie.
other story moments felt super easy.
Yeah,
Okay,
it was
can we
really
talk
much a
about
skill
that?
check. It's
The
like, hey,
game's
do you actually know how to play the
weird
game?
difficulty?
Yeah, I would like to talk about that.
Because yeah, for me and Shane were talking about this like right when I finished the game. The game has extremely inconsistent difficulty. Sometimes, like I feel like sometimes the game just shoots up in difficulty at random points, and then like 10 seconds later, it'll be extremely easy. Especially the ending. The final boss was extremely easy.
100%.
I didn't play the true ending. I only played the normal ending, but the normal final boss is very easy. I was like,
yeah.
I healed like one time in the whole fight. I was like, oh, that's
It
it.
doesn't even
really?
feel like they have that much health comparatively to other things either. It
The
was
other-
short.
There is that one boss fight I do want to talk about. If we can circle back to it, but it was the Medusa.
Medusa.
That one was tough.
That one, tangent here now, even though we were talking about the final boss. This boss was, I think, the worst. I think this one took the longest, in my opinion.
This was
just breaking
the
blocks
one
and
with the
stuff.
tubes.
Yeah.
The mechanical
That's
head.
so interesting. I don't really think
Yeah,
I.
he was a block for me too. He was the hardest. I think he's the hardest boss in the game, and he's like
I
what, like
agree.
the fifth to final boss, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Every
so
other boss
interesting.
past him was significantly easier.
I had.
Yeah, this one, I think, it was just more annoying than difficult. It was just like, oh, you're healing again, god damn it.
He just had one attack that like one shot me. He like
Or
he
the
like,
AoE
He
attack.
I
healed.
don't have
like
that
it
one.
was like this weird breath,
Yeah,
and
he
he
heals.
one shot my whole party
Dude,
instantly.
Yeah, you must have stopped all the healing lots.
Yeah.
They were the green.
They were the green
ones.
canisters.
I guess yeah. I must have played Locks hard on that fight. I really had no issues. I thought the
Yeah.
segments where you
tried.
fight all of the members of the what are they
The
called? The
numbers?
9. All the guys with the masks. Every time you fought those guys gave me a run for my money.
I
Every
thought
time.
that was easy.
Really?
That one was the easy one.
Those
Dang,
are
we all
good.
had different
That's
experiences.
weird. That's interesting.
Especially the assassin
Since
guy.
we played the game first.
The assassin guy was crazy because he would attack like 2 or 3 of your party members, and he'd do like 70% of their health each.
Yeah, it was rough.
Oh, you know what? The Daffy Duck boss fight was also a little
The Daffy
challenging.
Duck.
I
That's
also found that one really easy.
Not
I
Daffy
agree, too.
Duck, not him, but his healer friend. That one, he wiped me twice.
I got hit once by him. I'm like, all right, I'm just gonna focus him, and then
Any enemies that
Yeah.
healed other enemies, I killed them first.
Yeah, that was the
Fair.
strat, but he just had this one move that just wiped my party. You know, like a shot, and I was like, ooh.
AoE attacks are very strong in this game, and
Yeah.
sometimes it feels a little unintentionally strong.
Yeah, I mean that plays back to that difficulty curve thing that Zoobs was talking about because
Mhm.
he's 100%
Yeah,
right.
cool.
If early game especially, you would feel like you'd enter a new area, you'd fight random enemy, it would like almost one shot you. You're like, okay, I am not strong. You get to the end of that area, basic enemies feel all right. They're not one shotting you. You're getting by. New area, I'm almost getting one shot again. Like it was just like 2 steps forward, 1 step back until I would say like late mid game. Things started to like even out a bit more so, maybe because you got more options. But then you're right again. There's so many points, especially mid game, where like you just lose half your party, and then everything becomes so much more difficult again.
Yeah.
it's interesting.
I really, really wish they showed you. Doesn't have to be like numbers, but I wish you could see a bar for the boss's health. 'Cause that's one thing that felt super unimpactful. A lot of times I was fighting the boss, I had no clue how close I was, and then it just died.
That's a
and it
relic.
kind of killed
Is
the
it not?
moment. Not for bosses.
Not for
I don't
bosses?
think.
No.
Those
Not for normal enemies,
enemies,
it is, but not for bosses.
Yeah.
I didn't even know there was one for those.
You can
Like, the
kind of
only-
tell.
Yeah, it's their visual
some
indications,
monsters
like,
have visual
some-
indicators, which
but
is
then
cool.
there's some that just like don't even like change
Yeah,
their
some just have
sprite.
nothing.
Yeah.
There was
I feel like that's an
Some
important
kind of haggard at the
information.
end.
yeah,
It's like it's inconsistent
for sure.
sometimes.
Mhm.
The difficulty did feel weird at the end. I felt really strong, but I don't know if I was just playing the game well or if I was just strong.
I think
I couldn't
you're just
tell.
sick. You're so good at the game.
No,
You're
like,
so good.
because like if
I
you
feel like
break
the
all
off like
locks,
the end game is pretty easy.
no. If you do
the game-
everything, you should be strong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
because the game relies so heavily on the locks that if you break them, and if you're just good at breaking them, like the
Correct.
puzzle kind of like mechanic, you don't have to worry about much.
Yeah, I think that is why I had complicated feelings towards the locks, because like their attacks were powerful, but if you break them, you don't even see them.
I feel
Yeah, there were
Because-
times where I intentionally didn't break the locks, but I just want to see what the attack is because like I feel like I'm never gonna see it if I don't.
I felt that
intentionally
too,
look
but
at
then
their-
you die if you see the attack.
Well, I mean, some of them you do, some of them you don't.
Right,
Yeah,
right,
it's
right.
like weird. It's like some of them are like kind of cool. Like actually, the enemy on the screen right now on the video is pretty cool. They give you like a clone to fight. I actually like that for these guys.
That is a cool idea.
There's a lot of cool creative like attacks and moves in the game.
that's so true.
Some of them
yeah.
just are, and so it's like hit or miss. Like some
Yeah,
attacks
just
are really
not
cool,
all.
and they just- and some are like Medusa, where he just one shots you, and there's no fucking gameplay. You just die.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree.
But I do think one thing about this game that, whether you love it or hate it, you've got to appreciate is the art and the music.
Yes.
sure.
Yes. The presentation carries the game, in my opinion.
Mhm.
It is fantastic across
the
the
game
board.
is so pretty.
I was unsure playing it in the beginning whether it was done in a 3D engine or not, just based off of certain things I saw and noticed. And I think ultimately we'll get into this later, just when we get into some more spoiler stuff. But like, I do believe this is in a 3D engine. I don't know how exactly. Like maybe it's 2D
is.
sprites in a 3D engine.
2D sprites with lights placed around the world, I believe.
Yeah,
Yeah,
for sure.
there's some 3D like assets like that you can tell, like windmills, for example, like in the beginning of the game, like anything that like had a fan or was like rotating,
It's true.
like those were all 3D objects. Even like doors or something, I think as well. Like some of them were 3D.
It's masked
So, yeah.
so well though. Like
It is very well done. Like I had to like stare at it for a couple seconds. I'm like, no, that's 3D, but it's
mean-
done so well.
And especially the main characters have like 8-way directional sprites.
it's
Yeah, that
It's
was
so fluid.
that was like a big thing I was like a fan of. As soon as like you start playing, you're like, oh, this is nice. Like there's like a nice sense of polish in it.
yeah, it's tight. It
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
that's got, I think, the most of that Chrono Trigger feeling to it. They really captured
Yeah.
that old,
Mhm.
like, I want to say this is a 32-bit JRPG like aesthetic. The art's amazing. Music, if we want to get into that, music is superb.
Incredible.
I loved all of the songs.
Across the board.
Yeah.
It was great.
I
I
loved
it.
Boston.
Track on my own time.
There's also so much of it too. Have you guys checked Spotify to actually see?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a huge list.
Because there's like night versions of a lot of the tracks, which is cool.
I did not know that. Really?
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
do like that. There's like a
There's
pirate
only a few,
version of a
the
bunch of
numbers are a
them.
lot less, but like the battle theme has like a bunch of different variations. Like I really like whenever you go into a spooky area, like quote unquote spooky. Like the battlefield changes like a little. It sounds like slightly different to reflect the area. I really like those like little details.
That's
Mhm.
neat.
I thought you would use speaking of like the night and day songs, I thought we'd use that mechanic a lot more. I really didn't feel
Yeah.
like we used that a lot.
Just
That's barely. It was just like one set of puzzles, and then you can just change the time of day whatever you want. But it really does not get a lot
I
of
feel like
time.
you use it a
I
fair
was-
amount. That's
It's
it's
pretty
like
universal,
the,
yeah,
one
but-
type of puzzle.
the cornerstone
Yeah, but
of a
like-
lot of the puzzles.
Think about like, do you use it enough that you would consider them making night and day versions of like almost every track in the game worth it? Because that's such a commitment,
No.
and they did it.
Well, I think
I
it's
respect
more
it.
of a thing of like you.
It's not every track.
It's a lot of them.
There's
It
a
is
time
decent,
system
I
in the
think.
game, so like at any point in the game, it is either night or day. So like I think it's cool that they did that.
True.
It
And it
definitely-
definitely
yeah.
fits with
Sorry.
the sun and moon.
That's
theme
true.
of everything.
Yeah, the
True, yeah.
dichotomy.
Mhm.
Should we get into the story?
Sure.
I guess so.
Yeah,
Yeah, I guess.
Um,
I mean,
Guess we can.
yeah. All right. So let's, or I guess like
story spoilers. I
we're gonna
guess from
do
this point on,
story
if you
spoilers
care.
ahead. I guess let's, or we can kind of skip over early of like we're all on the same page, or I guess viewers. I'm assuming if you're watching this, you at least have some idea of what this game is. The Solstice
Maybe like a
Warriors.
general
Yeah, you're
idea.
trying to save the land from the Fleshmancer, who has these. He has essentially
Dwellers.
created these, the Dwellers, which are these like pseudo god figures placed in various points of the land that are like corrupting it towards like the Fleshmancer's favor. I still don't really ultimately know like what his goal is. I'm still unclear whether it's just to
Does
like
it, like shroud the world in darkness or something?
it's
I think
very
he's just trying to create really strong monsters, or really strong like entities, and that's the way he's going about it.
but then I'm
Like,
I'm
all these dwellers
confused.
Why?
collect power.
Yeah, because then you go to big spoilers ahead. You go to Seirai's world, and it's like cybernetics and stuff like that. And I'm still unsure how I think the Fleshmancer turned those people into cybernetic people.
Yeah, I think that's
He
what
was
happened.
the soul curator
Right.
guy.
Yes.
Yeah.
He
He was
like
working for it.
had the what was it? It was like the big robot thing. I forget what it was called. It was, but he was like putting them into a machine to turn them
The
cybernetic.
soul
I forget
machines.
Why
There was-
exactly? But
one of the Fleshmancer's minions did that. You fight
Yeah.
them right before you get to the final section.
yeah, we're talking about the same guy.
Yeah.
So I'm unsure as to like is the ultimate goal to just like is he trying to create the perfect being? Is that
The story is a little confusing on the Fleshmancer and
specifically the alchemist and the
Rashawn's
and the
side.
Fleshmancer?
Yes.
Yeah,
Those are the two characters where I feel like we got the most lore dumps whenever they talked, and it really didn't work for me. He was like, blah 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 blah, oh, the Solstice Society, and blah blah blah, this other world, and I was like, what are you talking about, dude?
I did like the scenes that showed their past of like I think ultimately what I interpreted it as was like these were two people who were from a different land where essentially they're like up and coming gods, you know? They're each practicing their powers in a different way. And at least in Rashawn's sense as the alchemist, he was practicing it in a more like intended wholesome kind of approach where he was trying to like create life and watch it like thrive, whereas like the Fleshmancer I think was like exploring powers. It didn't really seem like for a nefarious purpose per se, but more so in the essence of like his living entities that he created to him don't matter because he doesn't see them, I guess, like as living. So he would often, it seemed like, sacrifice his things and stuff like that. The alchemist's bird form that shows up in his ultimate was a gift from the Fleshmancer, where he thought that it was like something that the Fleshmancer had just like given him, not realizing that the Fleshmancer had created it from
it was
from the bird people. Yeah. By like enslaving them.
Like a flashback.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, it's a birthday gift. It's like, where'd you get it? It's like, I can't tell you. And Rashawn was like,
and he was like, haha, that's funny, whatever. And then he later realized, oh.
Yeah, it's like, you got this through like enslaving or like killing these like bird people. And what's also cool is that Rashawn is like shown off as the Great Eagle, which is the entity that delivers the Solstice Warriors to the village.
I actually did not realize that until you had just said that right now.
That's a huge point.
I did not
He is the
know
Great
that.
Eagle. So he's...
We haven't even talked about our main characters at all. We're just talking about like.
Oh yeah, that's fair.
Well, that's how the game felt, to be fair.
They're kind of.
Yeah, I guess that's true. Like, the story structure of this game, I think, is probably
go
the
through linearly.
part.
Let's do it.
Should we just go through it like bit by bit? I don't know.
That's probably.
I guess yeah.
'Cause, like,
The
I think I'll say one
We
of
can
my
talk about
biggest
our
problems with the
impressions.
game personally, for me, is, I mean, we'll talk about, I guess, a little more, but like the pacing of the actual story, because the game takes, like, in my opinion, the story does not really start until like 10 hours into the game.
Yeah.
Like the whole
That's
beginning
fair, yeah.
section is like extremely slow with like nothing going on at all. Because like we're talking about the Rashawn character, or the alchemist, but
yeah, he doesn't show
I
up
guess what like
until
people if you have
yeah.
the game you don't know is he's like sort of the narrator of the game for the first like 15 hours, and like you have no idea like what his deal is or what's going on with him. He's just like, here's the story of the world and I'm telling you the story. It's like talking to the audience. It's very weird. And then like we just meet him like halfway through, which I did like as the twist, but like the beginning it just takes so long.
Yeah, I was not a big fan of the narration at all because he really just repeated what just happened and didn't add any new information.
Yeah, and like because our main characters Zale and Valerie they're Solstice warriors. They're like bred. They're like Jedi basically. They're like bred from birth.
Jedi is it's a good way to put
they're
it.
born on the solstice.
They're chosen, and now they have powers of the solstice, I guess. Like they're like reincarnation of gods or something.
Yeah, it's like whichever one's born on the solar solstice or the summer solstice or the winter solstice, and they get the sun or the moon.
I don't think
powers
they were
effectively.
supposed to, or I don't think you know that they're going to, or I guess that they're up and coming gods essentially until.
I mean, the guy like calls them by their god names a few times before, don't they?
It seems that most people around them know. In terms of like the other Solstice Warriors mentioned, like if only they knew how powerful they really were. Like they say those kind of things as they're training.
I guess that's true. Does that mean the other Solstice Warriors are not like? Do they have powers?
I just don't think that they have the same
But
potential.
not.
Well, like they
Yeah,
could
I
have
think
been,
that's
but I
right.
guess they chose to be corrupted, kind of thing.
Which is, I guess, like yeah. Let's get into the twist.
That I also was talking about, yeah.
I guess like the point at which I think we all think like the game truly begins is when you fight the Dweller of Woe. Is it the Dweller of Woe? Which Dweller is it?
Yeah.
It's the first Dweller you fight. You're basically sent out on your first mission. You meet up with the other Solstice Warriors. You all combine your powers to defeat this guy. You do, and then twist, the other two Solstice Warriors are being influenced by the Nine and end up betraying you, releasing the Dweller, or like capturing it, I believe, or something. You basically,
it's like the core of it.
Yeah.
Like they break you kill it. There's like a core that drops, and then like Because like another thing we didn't mention, the beginning also has like you call it the Nine. They're like these masked bad guys. Like their names are just numbers.
Yeah.
And they kind of,
One.
that's the problem with the start at the beginning, is these villains just kind of sit around and like talk, like we just occasionally cut to them and they're just like, we're gonna do something bad, you don't know what, and you just reiterate this point for the first 10 hours, and then you finally find out, oh, the older Solstice Warriors you were training with, they were working with the masked bad guys the whole time. And
They're the
just
reason-
you know, and it's a big thing.
They're the reason the game just went on for another 10 hours.
Pretty much.
They're the
We could have
they are
been
the
done
reason.
with the game. We could have been done with the game there, but no.
That's
They wanted to
yeah.
give the orb.
That's why it
'Cause
didn't feel great to me, because you could have just smacked the boss in its core form after you defeated it once, and it would have died. But they were like, no, we're gonna help the
Because-
bad guys, and
well, 'cause
didn't really
they-
explain why.
Yeah, they had the point of like that was supposed to be the last dweller of the world, which would have made the world like safe.
But then they
It would've been-
introduced
it would've been done.
But I thought there was
Another
another
one.
dweller.
There's a bunch
did.
of other ones.
Yes.
We fight
And so-
multiple of them.
The argument of your mentors who betray you was like,
there
what
could
if
be
there's
more.
more?
Yeah, what if
There's
and then
more.
they created another one, and I'm like, how does that make any sense?
It's
In your mind.
Kind of dumb.
it's
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
for the story, they kind of it's kind of an underdeveloped concept in the story, but they do talk about like how the Solstice Warriors, like they are indoctrinated from birth,
Yeah.
like basically
That's
to
true.
to fight for the world, and like the headmaster who has been teaching them both there's it's hard to there are there's like two sets of Solstice Warriors. There's our main two, Valerie and Zale, our anime colored hair characters, and then we have the two older ones
The alumni.
who are more cynical about the whole thing, and they don't like believe in the cause, and they don't want to be forced to fight. So that's why
Yeah,
they go with
Erlina.
Erlina and
How do you pronounce it?
Graves, I
Brew
think.
Graves?
Yeah,
I
That's
think
how I
Brew
pronounced
Graves,
it.
One of those.
I think
But I really like that idea, because it's like very similar to fucking Star Wars. Like, oh, like the Jedi are, they basically forced to do this. Like they're abducted from their families and stuff like that. And like, oh, like they try to like reflect on like, oh, is this like a kind of an abusive system? But they kind of don't really talk about it that much in Sea of Stars.
Yeah.
They like, oh, this is the villain's motivation, but we're not gonna like investigate the concept more than that.
I did feel truly betrayed.
I
that moment.
yeah, I don't like either of them. Or like I guess like you're supposed to not like them, but yeah, boy did
That's
I
good.
hate both of them.
I really like Brew Graves. I felt truly betrayed in that moment.
I think he's manipulated a lot more by.
I think
the
he's a
other
pussy.
Solstice
Yeah, I think he's a
Warrior. Yeah, he
bitch.
is.
Yeah.
He is.
Yeah.
He is. Like he's not a good.
He's literally like, I
character,
don't
but,
want to
like,
fight anymore. Like he literally doesn't want to fight, which is fair.
You could have just
then he's
not.
like, I'm
yeah,
a-
you
I'm a-
didn't have to
I'm a-
go all the way to
Make things worse. Yeah.
When they do end up betraying you much later, they get like whatever wish they want from the Fleshmancer, basically.
Yeah.
And he's constantly berated and told like, "Oh, you're not fast enough," like so and so from the other one. And his wish is, "I want to be the fastest." Like I want to be like. He doesn't want to feel weak anymore. I think
thought
he's
he
I
wanted
constantly
to-
told.
doesn't he wish
doesn't
to
wanna
just
fight.
exist in peace?
Yeah,
Yeah,
he
doesn't
wanted
want
to
to fight
forget
anymore.
everything.
Yeah.
Yeah,
He wanted to
wishes
leave.
for
That's
favor, and her wish is for
No.
ultimate power,
Yeah.
which is
Which I feel like
lame.
yeah, I agree with Zoobs. I think it's an interesting idea, their betrayal, but the execution did not work for me,
It
especially
wasn't as
I feel like if
impactful.
Valerie
his
O'Dale
wish.
like reflected on it at any point, like, oh, maybe it is fucked up that the Solstice Warriors did
Yeah.
this to us. Like, they don't even think about it. They're like, yeah, no, they them, like we're gonna kill them. I'm like, fair
I
enough,
was
but
Pretty fucking
Yeah,
gung
and,
ho.
there was drama there. They could
Can
have.
we talk about how after that fight the headmaster leaves and gives up on you as well?
The headmaster.
Oh yeah,
That's
it was,
Yeah.
Headmaster's like,
Interesting.
fuck, it's
Felt
over.
Very strange to me.
Yeah.
he just
He straight up is just like, I'm not doing this anymore. Which is like,
I mean, he's got like the backstory of magic, because it's like all like you see a flashback where it's like all his friends die, and that's why he's such a hard ass to all of the kids.
He was
So it's like,
the
oh,
only
it's
one
like
to
it's kind of like a
survive.
perpetual like cycle sort of thing, but it's just
tough.
it feels a little underdeveloped, I think.
I think it shows. Sorry.
No, you go.
I think it shows a lot. Like with the other Solstice Warriors, you got to remember that even the headmaster, everyone that they looked up to or trained has died. Like all of their role models, all of their friends, everyone else has died for like the same cause that they're trying to fight for. So like everyone that they've known is gone, and they haven't really seen any change in the world. I don't know.
It is.
I'm not defending their point. I'm just saying like they have so much loss.
No,
that we
I thought the
forget about.
flashback with
think it's an
Moraine was really
interesting-
cool.
It's
He's
an
a
interesting
headmaster.
story. It's
And
just
he was
like,
like, oh, sorry.
you go. Sorry. No, you go. Sorry.
Whatchamacallit? They showed the flashback of like, there was literally like a team of like 40 Solstice Warriors, like all these like really strong warriors. They all went to fight one dweller, and only Moraine survived.
Yep.
And now he's the headmaster. It's like all his friends. I'm sure I think they mentioned a loved one at some point. It's like they're all dead,
Mm-hmm.
and
I'll
like
be honest.
he's just like done fighting.
I forgot about that.
Yeah,
And I think that's the game going on for a bit too long.
There's a lot of
Yeah.
good story beats, but you can miss them. really easily.
It's also just like, I think, and maybe this is the point, but a lot of those characters' stories, it just goes to show how different Valir and Zale are, because the power that they hold, even from like children, it seems, is like, it's a different type of power than I think the other Solstice Warriors are drawing upon. And towards the end of the game, I guess and this is something I'm still confused upon, where like, were they always gods, or did they
I think they were
obtain
gains,
the
right?
power?
I think they might have had some kind of prophecy about them or something.
I think they're like channeling the god's power. Like maybe they're reincarnated.
It might be like an avatar sort of thing. Yeah, like where
weren't they
you
like born from
reincarnate.
the bird or something? Like the bird drops them. Like
Yeah, I guess it is like
Powers.
I should not be getting all bogged down in the lore.
Well,
yeah,
but like,
I feel like
it's
there's one thing
unclear.
that-
Is the point.
it's a very gray zone-ish.
they're
description of
strong
them.
is like kind of the ultimate
Yeah,
point of it.
it's because they're the main character of a video game,
Yeah.
and ultimately in the end.
Yeah.
but they
I say,
succeed.
speaking of our main characters, I do want to talk about this. In my opinion, the biggest flaw of the game to me, like the story for me, is the character writing in general. Because I personally find most of our characters extremely like somewhat just bland. Like I think our main characters, as Valerie and Zale, are very bland and don't have a lot of personality. And I think a lot of characters in general are just kind of underwritten. That's why I personally thought the story dragged a lot, because we don't really do any character building. Like, there's no character arcs really, like from our main characters. There's not a lot of like dynamics, if that makes sense. Like,
Yeah.
our characters all feel the same, except for Sarai.
And
I
Garl.
think she's the only one
Garl.
that has like.
I think the supporting cast gets a lot of character development, but our main
Yeah.
characters don't get much.
The only time you get, I wish there was more dialogue between Valerie and Zale. The only time you can really get that is if you camp out, and you can do that like each time you have a new quest. Like each time when you do the save file, it's a different name. You get a different set of dialogue options when you talk to them, when you camp out. But I wish it was like more in the world and not just forced in this like, you have to camp out or else you'll just miss a little bit of dialogue.
There's
I
a lot
think
of dialogue there.
They could have a lot more in general.
I just wanted more to like sink my teeth into with characters, because like I feel like, at least for me, like with what brings me into a story is like seeing all these like different people interact and have like these unique interactions, and I feel like we just didn't have that. Like, our characters have very plain, like, let's just talk about the situation kind of dialogue. Like, it's kind of hard to explain, but it's just like, when you write a character, like, I kind of want to see their personality show through whenever they speak, and I feel like I didn't get that with everybody except for Sarai and for Beast, my Beast, Beast mode, my personal favorite character.
This.
I think Garl also
think-
got a lot.
Garl, yeah, I like Garl's like all right. For
Can we
me.
talk about it? We talk about
After
Garl.
Yeah.
after
I think it's a good comment
Gall's
about him.
big moment where he's no longer in your party, which I'm sure we'll talk about in like a second. I think that's
Let's go
when our
on.
main characters get the most development that they've had. Like, they actually get moments to like think. And, like, Boring
reflect.
someone.
I'll say, well, since we're gonna talk about Garl's death, that if we remember earlier, I mentioned like when I got hooked right after Garl died. That is when I actually got hooked into the story.
Was it good?
And my favorite moment was
Same.
also right after that. Like my favorite dialogue interaction, at least.
I was really upset, man. I really like Carl.
I-
It was like
I
right
really-
after I just learned his kit and was really excited to use it for longer. And oh man,
Dude, I
I
remember.
liked him as a
Devastated
character,
me.
and I was sad to lose his kid as well, especially.
Yeah.
The exploding pressure cooker.
Cooker surprise.
his
that was-
just random, like his bag of random things.
Yeah, that too,
Like,
the slot
that is-
machine one. That
This
was
is the
so
best
good.
thing that they have. I would have just saved up to use that, no matter if I lost a fight or not.
Anvil was so goated. Damn.
It was when I was fighting it was like I was fighting some of the numbered people, the like cult guys.
Yeah.
And I used Garl's random bag of attacks, and
Mhm.
it got like a rubber duck, filled the scene with water, and killed all of them. I was like, what the fuck?
Wait, what?
Yeah.
I've never seen that.
Yeah.
That's a combo move with Sarai, I think.
I used that move like once.
I
Yeah,
used it
I
with
mean,
the
I used it
rubber duck
once.
twice.
I just like seeing the
Then you
different
got it.
things for it. There's a lot of different things.
That's
you can do with
crazy.
it.
I might go back and look at that.
It's pretty cool.
I mean, you beat the game, you can use him now, can't you?
Fair enough.
Well, that's the difference between the true ending and the normal ending. I guess that's
You
the
get
talk about
back
that too.
to
We're
Carl.
getting ahead of
yeah.
us.
Well, I should say, I think we all were pretty blindsided. I would say
Yeah,
until
I'm-
Garl
yeah.
actually like bit the bullet, I was kind of like there's no way, right? And I think that's also why I was like, this must be the end of the game. But I'd say like Garl's death is the halfway point.
No,
that
yeah.
is that is
Well,
that.
I think
That's
that's
the
the
halfway
point
point.
too. Like the
Unless you
two-third
plan
point.
on doing endgame, in which case it's not even.
No. Yeah.
Yeah,
but-
I feel like there were a lot of moments that felt like the end, and then it kept going. At least like 3 times that happened.
But that
Yeah,
that sequence is that was probably the most emotional I felt about the game for sure. I thought they did his death well ultimately, and I think the way they showed grieving in this game was actually pretty. It's I would say like adult and real.
Very, very like. Mature.
Yeah, it was very much like they let the characters take their time with it. There wasn't like any like overly like dramatic scenes where the characters were like punching a wall and being like, no. It was just like both Valir and Zale were like depressed for a bit, and they took some time, and then they were like, okay, I'm ready to do this.
That's
Yeah,
That's a fair point.
that's one of my favorite moments. Is there's a scene where Sarai and Valerie, I think, are just talking about Garl, like they're talking about like the grief and everything, and like they just reflect on how they both personally like have dealt with it. And I was like, oh my god, the characters are bonding. Like I feel like they have a
Yeah.
connection.
I don't remember
Which they
exactly
haven't
what
felt
the
at all to that point.
That's fair. I don't remember exactly what the line was, but there was one that really stood out to me, I think, during that conversation, where Valerie said something along the lines of, I'm feeling sad, I feel a little better, but I think this is something that I'll just carry with me for the rest of my life. And I think that is a very mature way of looking at grief, is like, that's just kind of how it goes.
It just sticks with you. But I also
Yeah.
like when I think she was talking to Zale, and they were like talking about like the good times, and they're like, we feel better. But like, yeah, it's just like you can remember the good times, but you'll still have this like burden with you.
Mhm.
It was really cool.
Yeah, games
it was good.
tackles grief like not a lot of games do, and it also, I think this is one of the reasons why I like this game so much, is like when they have that moment to grieve, when they have that moment like, okay, we're gonna stop for a little bit, and then we'll pick up when we're ready. Like the game breathes, and it's not something that a lot of games do, but it's also not something I think if I played another game that did the same thing in any recent time from now, I'd be like, oh my god, I can't do this. But
Right,
because
just
it's like
the first.
such a breath of fresh air that this game takes time to breathe, I was okay with like some of the slower moments of the game, some of the like patient moments where it took time to reflect and have development time. Where a lot of games you really can't do that. Otherwise, it just drops the plot.
So I had a weird experience with Garl's death because early on in the game, I was trying to figure out how to time the sandwich toss from Garl.
Garl got solar flared.
And I was trying to figure out, what's the perfect time or like how to do this. I Googled it. And then in the search results, like the autofill was like Garl's death. And I was like,
Yeah. That's
I
unlucky.
was like, God damn it.
You Googled the game! First mistake!
Yeah.
true,
And I was like,
actually.
okay.
Just self L right there.
And it was over.
Could have
But,
asked us.
Even then,
Yeah, true.
so I knew it was coming. That's the thing. I knew it was coming. And the way they did it, the way he still had his last moments, and like you could enjoy the time, like they really emphasized the moment. I haven't been hit by a game like that, like emotionally. Like when he finally bit it, it was over. My face was gone.
Yeah.
Like,
It was sad. Legitimately.
no, yeah, and I knew it was coming, and like the way they did it was so good. I haven't been hit by a game like that in so long.
It's-
I don't even know if it has even happened in a game.
I think
to
it's
me.
doubled by the fact of like the type of character that they set Garl up to be.
Carl.
Yeah.
He's like a
Carl's character is like the perfect, like
good boy, like just a really
Yeah.
good boy, and like it's tough
Like, maybe,
to,
like,
to see a
if you want to be
character.
the MC,
Yeah,
like in terms of like self inserts, like maybe you want to be Valerie or Zale. For me, Garl is like, if I was in the universe, Garl is my choice.
Garl's a
And
great guy.
His town is so good. The
Murph,
fact that he founded a whole village for people who just needed like an escape.
peace.
oh my God.
Yeah,
Garl is so sick.
great character.
That's
I think Garl is by far the best written character in the game.
I agree at that point. I do think later on the story with Sarai is pretty interesting.
I think Sarai rivals.
Sarai is my
very
favorite character.
There's a lot of cool
I like
characters.
her more than Garl personally, but I'm biased.
But yeah, dude, what was everyone's reaction to the Sea of Stars?
Yes.
Overall?
No.
Actual
The
Sea of Stars?
Sea of
The
Stars.
moment,
Oh,
the Sea of
moment
Stars
that you
was-
fly, the moment that you
So
fly
good.
or sail through the Sea of Stars, I was like, what the fuck is happening?
What a crazy,
Easily the best moment in
yeah,
the game for me.
absolutely like mind blowing, especially coming off
Shane
of
watched
what
my reaction. I was like losing it. I saw that part. It was so cool.
the
I was like, "Wow, that was such a
And
fucking memorable moment."
Immediately followed up with something super cool. as well.
crazy
Yeah,
that was
that was it. Like, from that point on, like that to the end of the game, I'm locked in. Like we got the Sarai's run after that. Like
crazy.
seeing her, the desert area was really cool. The sky base was really cool. I was like, they ran with that momentum for me, like for the whole game.
Yeah, the back half of the game is so solid.
That last act, like they really did all come together for me.
I will never get over how the screen transitions to like 3D assets and everything, and I completely mind blown of just being like, what game am I playing right now?
It was
I think
super
it
cool.
could just be that they changed like the camera in this thing. Like they moved their camera to a certain space where like it's all been 3D the entire
That's
time, but they
Why I was like, is it a shader? Is the pixel aspects
I
like
don't think so.
I think it was pixel, like it was fully 2D, and then it transitions to full 3D. I think.
Definitely.
I
I'm
think it's the
I'm
square
almost
so
certain.
good. It has just such a good job of like like the illusion of depth.
it was
think
super
so.
well done.
The presentation, yeah, we talked about the presentation
Yeah.
before. The presentation of this game is like
Yeah.
immaculate. It's like
Yeah.
aspect of the game is so well put together and visually and audibly.
Especially, yeah, I think the fact that the light interacts with the pixel art and certain like crystals in one part of the game when you walk and it's in the foreground, it distorts your
yeah.
pixel art.
That's
Really great stuff.
Yeah.
It's like it's a model. Like as far as like pixel like I'm trying to think of other pixel based games that look better than this. They're really like I can't think of
I don't
any
know.
that even come close. Like it just nails like the aesthetic perfectly. While still like, it feels distinctly its own thing. Like it feels like those games that inspired it, but also its own thing.
Right. I feel like they're
Completely.
trying to evoke what the memory of playing those games is like in your mind.
For
where like
sure,
it
yeah.
isn't actually this detailed, but you're filling in all that information.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
a good. That's
definitely.
good.
Did you guys suspect that Sarai was gonna be a cyborg?
Haha.
No.
Caught me so off guard. That was so cool.
I didn't know
That
where
is
her
sick,
magic was
though.
coming from, but I didn't know it was gonna be like that.
I did not
I
know.
thought it was so
Yeah.
funny that
It's
like
like a twist.
the first part of the game has like this thing where it's like, oh, she's actually not the pirate, but she's like hiding it the whole time. It's like, haha, we knew the entire time, and then all of a sudden she's like,
Yeah.
when did you know this? It's like,
Yeah, it's pretty
Yeah,
good.
double reveal.
Like there's even like a gag with the achievements. Like the first time because you see her for the first time as like a pirate, but she's like a ninja. It's like really weird. But but they have like an achievement where it's like who could have guessed, even though it was like extremely obvious. And then like when you find out she's a cyborg, the achievement's like who could have guessed part 2. That's
Yeah.
like oh shit.
It is also great because I remember early on wondering like, whoa, why does she have portal magic? Like that's really cool. And I forgot. It never got explained until then, when you find out she's a cyborg from another dimension.
Also, every time you interact with like the Fleshmancer, and even when you interact with the Alchemist, they'll always like acknowledge Sarai and like be like you, like because they
should be.
like
What
they
do you do?
know.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're like, what's up with that? And they're like, oh, that makes sense.
Yeah. And the sci-fi world and changing all the UI and the music, that worked the best for me. I was like getting sick of the fantasy setting.
This
I was
game
a
has
big
heart.
fan.
This game has a lot of heart. The devil
Yeah.
is really hard.
You get to that first boss in that new world, and it's like this robot mech essentially, and I was like,
Yeah.
bro, what?
And you're
Yeah.
fighting like, turrets and robots
Yeah.
instead of like
And they-
ghouls and goblins and
they
stuff.
hit you
It's
with
like
the
really-
remix.
They do such a good job with every aspect of that. And like when we get to go to space, like pretty soon after, like the sky
Yeah.
base, like that was super cool.
You get shot up in the
Yeah.
the ball.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
Personally, yeah, I was super into it. I loved the music and the art and the setting. And then the game went on for like another 5 hours, and it
It's
kind of
an
lost
entire
me,
second
personally.
map, but yeah.
Yeah,
To be
But I
fair,
would have said that if I didn't have a whole new character to mess around with.
to be fair,
fair.
whatchamacallit, it isn't that. It's not like the first map where there's a shit ton of stuff to do. There's
Mhm.
like 3 locations. It's like this location, that location.
I feel like
Yeah,
closer
that's
than
true.
you
It just
think
took more
though.
time.
There's
And I would have
I
liked.
still think a good amount of areas in that second world.
No, definitely.
Yeah, they're kind of big, even though there's not that many. But yeah, I bring up. I just call him Beast. I
Yeah.
don't know if that's
Dude.
pronunciation. I wish we got him earlier.
Completely-
I
Yes.
really love him.
I can't believe they gave us a new character. I was convinced that I was like, we lost
Yeah, I was
Carl,
like,
like
oh.
this is our final roster. Like we're gonna
Yeah.
beat the game with this. I was astonished when he shows up and like the alchemist is like, living glass. This is what I have to do. And he fucking makes Bist. And then Bist is my favorite character in like the game. I think I fucking
Yeah.
love that guy.
I think that's one thing that actually did work pretty well story-wise for me, but gameplay-wise, I really wish I could have played him for like 20 more hours.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't really
Instead of,
get
like,
a lot of
3.
gameplay out of it personally.
No.
My favorite part about him is, but really, charmed him for me is all his animations.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
like the way that, because you have all these animations for like climbing and tightrope walking and stuff, and
Oh,
this
yeah.
has these unique, really fun takes on
He'll
them. Like he
yeah.
turns into a wheel,
Yeah.
like a shallow wheel. He turns like to a bug to climb up walls and stuff like that. I was like, that's like the example of the game's animation doing a huge legwork of like making a character charming and interesting for
Have
me.
you ever seen him swim? He turns into a
Yeah, it's a
bottle.
bottle. It's like a
Yeah.
bottle. It's a message in a bottle. It's so
I
cool.
love his attack animations as well. Like the volleyball spike is sick.
Yeah.
Yeah, the volleyball spike. His ultimate's really cool. He changes in all these different shapes and stuff.
that's
like
like
they
a
did such a
testament
great
thing.
job, like
Like from
endearing
Guilty
the
Gear,
game.
like he becomes a monster. I'm like,
True. He
Where
got the
did this
hungry
come from?
hippos.
yeah. I'm like, what?
Yeah, and his theme is really good too. His theme actually has like a little bit of vocal. It's got like a in the back,
Oh,
like it's a
yeah.
fucking Knuckles theme from fucking Sonic. I loved it.
Yeah,
I
'cause
was
he
like,
uses, like,
yes.
He sings.
He uses,
yeah.
like, sound
if you use Warble,
And he
it's a
sings, too.
revive
Oh.
spell. Yeah.
Every bit with him was great, and like he's like his whole a character thing where it's like, in order for him to stay in the glass, he needs to have like an indomitable will sort of thing. Like you need to have purpose. And he's like, if it's about determination, then I'm good. I've been waiting years for this shit. He was like all pumped up. I'm like, yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty sick.
He's effectively
I love
invincible
him.
as long as his will is intact.
Yeah, as long as he's got iron will, he's invincible. It's
I
like
love
his
stuff like that.
he was super fun. Like every scene with him was cool. And then like the whole thing with the true ending is he takes the hit for Garl, and that's how Garl is able to live in the end.
Yeah, that's just so sick.
It's like it was just really cool. Like
Honestly,
he's a fun, awesome character. I wish there were more characters like him in the story instead of just like I don't know. I really did not like Rashawn at all. So like if we had another character like this instead of Rashawn, I feel like I would have liked the game's story a lot more.
I think Rashawn is just left too vague, and I think that's in terms of like maybe they
Especially
wanted to set up.
the ending. Especially
It's so
in the
weird
ending.
to me that he is gone for the ending of the game.
he both seems really cool and heartless.
Yeah, I almost think that he's just as bad.
As the Flesh
I did-
Mancer.
He definitely.
Yeah,
He's just
yeah.
like it's just like
He's a
bystander.
bystander.
syndrome.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's like I don't really care.
Yeah.
And then he leaves you with
I
the
totally
puppet,
agree.
and when you camp out with him, it's like this puppet is lifeless. It's just ... It's like
Yeah, I was like
Fuck
waiting
you,
for him to
Rashawn.
like come back because like he's like oh like you like I think he was about he's like oh you've gotten your powers like earlier than expected. I have to change my calculations. I'm like all right, he's gone, but like he'll come back and like it'll be like some big thing with a finale because the main villain's his friend and everything, and then just nothing happens.
Yeah.
also
And
no
I'm like,
story
okay,
wise.
like there's setup but no payoff like at all. I was really confused, and the true ending is exactly the same. He just shows up. He doesn't do anything.
Yeah.
It's like really lame. That's like okay, I guess.
I was expecting more from him in the true ending. I thought he would do something.
Nah,
But,
it kind of fucks off.
Maybe
He
the
just
DLC.
kind of like,
Maybe the
if
DLC.
anything, he makes things worse by taking the main villain and being like, "All right, you're good."
I don't.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like I need more explanation on that. Like, why did he help?
I don't.
I
know.
think it's because
their whole friendship did not work for me at all.
yeah. But I think it's
It was like a worse version of fucking Xehanort and Ericus friendship
Oh,
in Kingdom Hearts, and then
100%.
that's saying
That's
something.
a good
'cause I didn't really
parallel.
like it
though.
there either.
That is a good parallel, but it'll probably lose just as many people because Kingdom Hearts is so fucking confusing.
True,
Yeah.
true. I feel like unfortunately the villains in general were the game's biggest weakness.
Yeah.
Like I think
Mhm.
I don't think I wrote in like our little doc before we talked like I think all of the villains are extremely weak. The only one I liked was the Soul Curator, who's like the one who like we talked about him earlier, the one who
turned everyone into cyborgs.
does it turns Sarai's people into cyborgs. As like I like it because like Sarai's got clear beef with this dude. And his boss fight's really cool, where like he has like all these illusions and stuff. Like they're playing with like your expectations. Like that was a really interesting thing. I enjoyed. Like I really hated that guy. Like I feel like they built him up really well, even though he didn't have a lot of screen time. But I feel like every other villain is like we're the bad guys and we're evil and there's nothing more to us than that. Especially the other Solstice Warrior, Erlina, the one who becomes the Fleshmancer's general. I was like, you fight her in the end, and she's just like, I want power because I'm evil, and I mean, if there's more to her, like, please tell me. But I was like, this is really weak.
I thought
Well,
Like her-
especially
Erlina
yeah,
was
you got-
an okay villain in the terms of like when she showed up, I was like, yeah, I want to kick your ass. Like, I definitely was satisfied showing her up even after she got the
Yeah.
power from the Flashmancer. But yeah, I will say honestly though, I think Erlina was an okay villain. I think she is a misguided individual, maybe not even
Right.
misguided, but just like self-preservation kind of taken to the extreme in a sense. And I guess she wants to be there for Brewgraves, but like
Right.
she doesn't do that
Like, I
necessarily.
was also
Yeah.
confused because her whole shtick is that she sees Brewgrave struggling and wants to, have him escape. And so, I guess I don't remember exactly. I think it's like he makes his wish, and then she gets recruited, and she's like, "I'll do whatever you want as long as he gets to go free." but then I feel like it gets twisted either by Fleshmancer or just like her, and she's like, I just want to be strong.
Yeah.
And I don't really
And-
get that part.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but when you fight her at the end, she's lost all memory, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, she's a dwelling.
I
She's
did
just
not like that.
She's just basically a heartless monster.
They both have, and Boograves goes on. I think if he's the same goat dude that's shown at the end of the true ending, he becomes a villain in The Messenger.
Oh, is that the tie-in?
Oh.
Yes.
I didn't know that. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, would you like to continue on that?
I mean, yeah, there's a lot of references, and I think that's why some things are left to be vague. There's some moments like when we'll just go from the first reference. You can see from the entire like top right island in the main map, all of the music and locale is the same as the island that the Messenger takes place on. The volcano island is also the DLC of the Messenger. It's just like those two locations are still canonically like places that exist within the Messenger and are referenced a lot. How like this world eventually comes to collapse years and years and years in the future, and some of the like baddies from this game still exist or have their locations exist in the Messenger. I think there's like a witch in the woods at some point, and her hut is still in the Messenger. It's just decrepit. And then
So this is a prequel.
this is a prequel to the Messenger. Yes.
Interesting.
The Messenger takes place many, many, many years in the future after the world has collapsed.
Interesting.
Or if a timeline of the world has
Yeah,
collapsed. Because there is a lot of time.
There's implications
Yeah.
of like, at least if you go, especially the true ending route, we know that Val and fucking, why did I forget their names? Valir and Zale become the.
Is it Valir or Valerie? We keep changing
I don't
the
know.
pronunciation. Nobody knows.
They become guardian gods of like the. I don't know if it's just this world or like the universe in this.
No,
sense.
it's like all worlds.
Yeah, they.
Because they were like, there's so much, like there's so many worlds, and like they basically are like on watch.
Yeah.
There's a temple dedicated to them in the Messenger.
Really?
To Sol and Luna. Yeah, and it looks just like the temple that's shown off in the end of the game as well.
Interesting.
Where like they're like, oh, this looks great. There's the center glass pane. I actually have a picture of it in our Discord. But yeah, they have a temple dedicated to them in the Messenger. That's a really cool reference that you don't get because the game doesn't come out for years.
That's actually interesting. Thinking about that, you're right, because the Messenger came out first.
Yes, the Messenger came out first, but has so many references to a game that came out after it.
That's
Like-
really interesting.
I
the way
respect
that they
that.
set that up.
But
I missed a lot of that because I didn't
there's
play
also the alchemist when he stops time and they like admire the beauty of the crystals that he
The
makes.
anchor that he creates. Yeah.
The anchor that he creates. There are like time crystals that are there. I forget the exact wording of it.
It was pretty on the nose.
Time
They call 'em-
shards,
I think they
I think?
literally call them like time crystals or
they're
time shards.
They're time shards.
Yeah.
They're time shards. But something must happen in the DLC of this game, or maybe in the future, that those time shards are more available in the Messenger because they become currency for your character to gain powers.
Really?
Oh,
Yes. Time shards are a currency that you collect throughout Messenger, and that's what helps you
Oh,
gain powers.
Interesting.
I think I remember those. Yeah, that is really cool. I really enjoy that they have their own like little universe between these two games. I hope they keep it up.
Yeah, I mean it's very interesting, and the weirdest part is that I still haven't figured out. There are blue cloaked figures that never reveal themselves, that seem to know a lot about like time shards and everything else. They exist in kind of a space outside space, and they are like your shopkeepers and the person that tells you all the stories and all sorts of things like that. They're very mysterious. I think that they have a lot to do with the alchemist. They
Yeah,
look similar
like
to the
Full Metal
alchemist.
Alchemist or something.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
But yeah,
Very
there's a lot of
interesting.
references, and you never have to play the Messenger to understand Sea of Stars, but it definitely pays homage to it a lot. And it's like, hey, if you've played this game, like this is also nice nods to you.
Interesting.
I do have one thing on the true ending. Gameplay wise,
Yes.
and like story wise, like when you get the power of when you fully ascend, you get the power of gods. You can fly.
Flying
On the overworld.
is
Oh my
nice.
god!
Wow.
Why is that such a late feature?
God, I
story
agree.
based. Well, holy crap! Also, to get the true ending, which is also really annoying. You have to do side quests. So you do all the characters. Like you basically finish off each character's like aspirations.
Yep.
So for Sarai, you have to kill the queen of the land.
It's like another dweller-esque figure.
Yeah. And then for other characters, you have to do other things. But there's one side quest, like all of those are cool because they're all character based. But one side quest is just to collect the thought, getting all the rainbow content.
Yep.
And I think that's so dumb and such a waste of like.
It
Time.
would be
It's,
okay if they had some sort of fast travel system.
Right.
Sure.
And backtracking through levels is also annoying because you can run past enemies sometimes. It's just really annoying and frustrating. And there's not enough movement in levels. And there's not enough movement options in levels to get through them quickly if you've already done them. It's
I
kind of
really we're
frustrating.
talking about that, like world traversal and puzzles.
Right. So like
Pretty cool.
flying is
overall.
nice, but also like you have to look up guides and stuff to find the rainbow conches. Or actually, no, the parrot tells you where they are. Like it's still kind of hard to find them. That's just one gripe. Like to get the true ending, which I think is worth it. You have to,
You have to
do a
collect
little
all
bit
of
like
them?
You have to collect,
collect
all
yeah, you have to collect
of
all
the
the rainbow
rainbow
conches.
conches.
Yeah, there's no way in hell I'm doing that.
It's
There's 60.
It's
rough.
it's very similar to like Batman Arkham Knight, where everybody loves the game, but collecting all the Riddler trophies is required to get to the end of the game.
Like I liked all the other side quests because everyone is character based. Like you have to do something for best. You have
I
to do
just call
something
him B.
for Sarai. I think you have to do something for Rashawn as well. I think. Maybe. I don't
There,
remember.
you just have to kill a super boss essentially, and then like you open a chest, there's nothing in it, and then his little ghost guy or one of the clones that he has like pulls the item. He already had
Right.
it. It was pretty
Right.
weak, honestly, but
But it's cool. That's also how you get the strongest gear in the game.
Yeah.
So if you do all the side quests before the final encounter, you get the
should be
strongest
pretty
gear in the game.
stacked.
But yeah, just collecting all those conches is really annoying. But I did like the true ending, and fighting the Fleshmancer was cool. Especially since there was like a
Ugh,
shoot 'em up section.
the-
That was kind of
The
sick.
that's the
Seems hard, though.
Sonic Frontiers.
Yeah.
I had to say it.
The shoot 'em up segment is in both versions of the final bosses, but in the true ending final boss, it is a lot more difficult. Lots more bullets.
Yeah.
Lots more bullets. A lot.
It was a
more.
cool surprise. I did enjoy it.
It was definitely a very interesting fight. I liked watching it, and the music. Not to bring it back, but the music in all of the boss fights is
The
pretty damn
music's
good.
sick.
The music, yeah.
And when the credits roll, you see all the characters. You see
Yeah.
all the characters that you've impacted. And
And it's different.
Garl's side quest is so sick. Garl's side quest is so sick for the true ending. You get to go to the Golden Goose,
Yeah,
like
you
the-
have to
like the
you have to
best
find the
restaurant.
chef.
and you just get a huge dinner party, and it's just fanfare. Like all the characters are talking, and Garl makes a toast, and it's like, oh, it's so good.
It's very
In the
good.
video I watched, it didn't show that.
I would recommend it if you
Yeah,
go and watch
I
his
still
side
wanna,
quest.
I still want to beat the game. I was determined to do it. I just don't have
Gotcha.
time.
But it's all the side quests are sick. I just hate trying to find the rainbow conches. It's my one gripe.
It still probably in total end up being a 50, 60 hour experience for me. But I've been playing it
I think you'll be okay.
during lunches.
I got it down in 40.
Yeah, I think 40
Seems pretty
seems to be
doable.
the like 100% kind of time.
I'm
fish-
at 40 and I'm still going. I haven't even
You're
gotten
at
conches
40.
yet.
Oh, okay.
I'm slow.
That's okay.
I like fishing. Fishing was fun in the game.
Fishing was fun.
The fishing, I did
Yeah,
like the
fishing
fishing.
was the
mini.
first thing I
I'm
completed.
really hard to
Minor mechanics.
Every game's gotta have a fishing mini game. I respect it.
What did you guys
I respect the vision.
What did you guys think of the Artificer?
He was sick.
I
I love the
love
way they
the
solved his
Officer.
problem.
I thought he was going to be another playable character.
I
the way they were setting
Kind
it
of
up.
thought it was gonna be that too. I'm a little
I thought so.
a little
I
disappointed,
with
but
the bit.
that's fine.
Kind of wish it
Yeah.
was.
I liked it. It's like 5 kids like all in one like robot thing, and they're like talking over each other like in the inside, and they have to like. it takes them like forever to make a decision on something. I
they're
really like them.
you gotta hit the pose. Remember, hit the pose.
It was cool.
It was I enjoyed the artificer more than the kids individually.
Yeah. I thought that was a really cool segment, especially because I think the Artificer's design is an homage to a certain Chrono Trigger character as well.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Little
Lots of
frog guy.
references.
Ultimately, very good. I think we could start.
Do we want to do final thoughts?
Yeah, let's start wrapping up
Yeah.
our Sea of Stars talk discussion.
I think that's fair.
Um,
Um,
final thoughts. You can start, Tyler. Go ahead.
Sure. This game was something I knew I wanted to play for a while because I really love the Messenger. I was afraid to get into it just because this isn't the type of game that I would usually play. But I'm so pleasantly surprised by it, and I don't think I would play it again from beginning to end, like love it that much. And I don't think I would call the game a 10 out of 10 either, but I will remember this one. And it is such a great game. I enjoyed it. I loved it even more that I could like bounce things off of you guys before we were even in this. Like there were just some things I couldn't wait where I had to be like, "Oh my gosh, that was so cool," or so and so. Like it was just fun to talk about. And it's like the Sea of Stars where it just was left with me after the game is over. And I think I'll still think about this game for a while. Reed, why don't you go through your thoughts?
Sure. This game was, I guess, my recommendation. It had been on my radar for a while. I saw the trailers on Steam. I want to say a year before it even released, and I was pretty enraptured by the visual identity of it. So I was excited. I think ultimately it lived up to expectations that I had for it, for sure. I think there's definitely some clunky game design decisions that I don't love. For example, just like there is no fast travel, and you know you don't ever have access to like a full map, which is a little annoying. But nothing that really like stopped me from playing or enjoying the game. Really enjoyed it. Highly recommend. I'm excited to see what else they do with it. You know, we heard about the DLC that they're gonna have coming up, so I will definitely be playing that. I don't think we're gonna add that to the wheel or anything, but I'm sure one of these episodes I'll talk about it whenever it comes out, personally. But yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed it. Highly recommend.
Nice.
I'll go
Popcorn
next.
somebody.
Oh no, I'm stealing the show.
Do it.
Yeah, like Tyler, I would not have played this game. I knew a lot of people enjoyed it, like from the Game Awards and stuff. Like I knew lots of people had great opinions and loved this game, but it was just never on my radar. You know, it was on my wish list. You know, the whole thing. But it was a lot of fun. I greatly enjoyed it. That's what like I really appreciate out of like doing this project, like doing the wheel, is you get to play games that you might not have thought to play, that you could have enjoyed or otherwise maybe not have, but you wouldn't have played it if it wasn't through this way. So I really like
So true.
I really appreciate that Reed recommended it. I would definitely highly recommend it. I think there are flaws, but I think overall it's a great experience. And if you take your time with it and don't burn out, it will reward you. It will reward you through the experience.
I tend to agree. I think this
especially if you stick to the story. I think the story is really well done. Maybe not the characters themselves, but the overarching thing they're trying to do and how to get connected to these characters. I think they did it really well. And I'm looking forward. I'll probably play the Messenger at some point, and I'm looking forward to whatever else these devs make, because I think they cook. I think they can cook.
Let them
Quite
cook. Let them cook.
They can. I will warn you about Messenger though; it's a very different game.
No, yeah, it's like a 2D platform. But I think that's more of my style of game than this. So.
Yeah.
Next.
All right, who's next?
I guess I'll go next. For me, I think I mentioned earlier, this is not my kind of game. I would have never played this if it was not recommended on the wheel, but it was definitely a game of high highs and low lows for me. Lots of moments where I was like, this game is fantastic, and I was really into it. And there were just as many moments where I was like, I really hate this game and want it to end. But I think overall, I am really glad I played it, and I definitely have a lot of appreciation for the craftsmanship and the love clearly put in by it. The insane talent shown on display of this is undeniable to me, and I think if you're into this type of game, you'll probably really like it. I think I just playing this game has reinforced why I don't play these turn-based RPGs very much. And I think most of my problems with the game are with the genre more than the game itself. So, it's definitely overall a good experience and a lot of memorable stuff. And I will still be listening to the soundtrack after this is over. So they definitely nailed it on that aspect.
Going off of that, yeah, I agree with a lot of what you said. Again, I think because I don't know, it was definitely way too long for me personally, and yeah, I think that is part of the genre, and that's fair. But I really enjoyed a lot of it, and I absolutely agree the music and the art and really everyone who worked on this game did a phenomenal job. It's just not quite for me, but I'm glad I tried it, and I probably wouldn't have otherwise. So that's cool.
Yeah, I guess for me, overall the experience was great. It brought back memories of playing old RPGs like Chrono Trigger, Pokemon, or any type of DS RPG that I used to play back in the day. And that was really fun for what the game had to offer. But I think it's just been so long since I've played a game like that, and my tastes have changed over the years and stuff. I'm now into more action RPGs, etc. But this was a nice refresh. But definitely, if the story was just any more engaging to actually hook me in and not make me result into no lifing it in 2 days, then I would definitely be recommending this game a lot more. But for what this game is, it's a great game. Devs had a lot of passion in it, and it clearly showed throughout the playthrough. I think all of us can agree on that. And yeah, would I play this game again? Probably not, but I definitely would recommend it to people that either have never tried an RPG before or have tried an RPG in the past but haven't played one in a while. I would definitely recommend this.
Excellent. Yeah.
Good closing points.
Great, yeah. Now, just before we wrap it up, I guess we want to mention the next game that we have chosen to play.
The next game is Bomb Rush Cyberpunk. So
A much different game.
much different. We're going into the, I guess you would call it more action. Yeah,
Extreme sports
extreme sports with some light combat
180.
sprinkled in.
like this.
Exclamation
This is,
point gamer.
This is a game
First
that
funk type
some
game.
of us have actually played before the wheel, right?
Yeah.
And some replay for
Yes.
some of us. Which will be interesting because it's a new experience for some of us, but other people have already done this and are having a second run through a game. So yeah, that's neat.
It's gonna be epic.
I'm excited.
Oh, it's gonna be
Downloading it right now.
Yeah, I think
Right.
Right now.
we're definitely gonna mirror some of our thoughts with the soundtrack already. I'm sure,
Mm-hmm.
but
Yes.
Listen, video game music.
can't go
Kinda
wrong.
hits.
Yeah, I mean, we all clearly, if a game has a good soundtrack, we'll be there.
I agree.
That's half the battle.
It's a big push for why I finish games. It's do I like their music? All right, I'll finish it. It is sad to close the book on Sea of Stars, though. Even though we did complain it was a little long, it is sad to close the book on this game. It's been
It's been 2 months
Yeah,
of our
yeah.
time.
My
Sure.
favorite moment was talking to each other about yeah, I don't think you can hit the timing on this
Oh,
move.
yeah.
Oh, I did it.
All of us being like, I don't think there's a timing for this move, and then
then
without a
one
doubt, one
person-
person would be like, oh, I know the timing for that one.
Listen, just don't Google it.
Yeah.
the
Just don't
game
do it.
I think that's
the
just a
game
you problem.
Yeah.
Just don't Google games you like. That's a good closing point.
I'll keep that in mind.
Awesome. Love that for you.
All right.
All right.
We'll see you around.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye bye.